Today, we're going over a real-life example as to how a simple tweak to your retirement portfolio can save you up to $50,000 in taxes. Additionally, I'll be going over how to build your retirement portfolio so that you're not stressing about it when markets are fluctuating. I'm Marc from Winnipeg Financial Planning. Let's get into it. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a real-life example, and we'll call this individual Sarah Jones. So Sarah and I were in my office, we're having coffee, getting to know each other, and she was mentioning that she was widowed, recently retired, and had been working with an advisor for many years, but now that she was retired and was going to start drawing money out of her portfolio, she wasn't sure that her current advisor's expertise matched the needs of herself moving forward. So she wanted to know what her options were. So let's dig into it. So Sarah was 66, and like I mentioned, she is widowed and retired. Her current portfolio is valued at $1 million, and the RSPs of that portfolio are worth $500,000. Her TFSA is at $100,000, and she also had a non-registered account for $400,000. And there was kind of two things that she was concerned about now that she was retired, and the first being how to invest tax efficiently. And the second, she was concerned with the portfolio fluctuations that she had experienced. And now that she was no longer contributing to her accounts, she was worried about it in retirement. So a few ideas that we looked at for Sarah. So how to invest tax efficiently. So her current portfolio, she would consider herself to be a moderate or balanced investor. So that would mean that she's currently has about 50% of her portfolio in the stock market and 50% of her portfolio in a fixed income investments. And just for the sake of this example, let's just say that the stock portion of Sarah's portfolio grows at a rate of 4% per year, and the more conservative fixed income part of her portfolio grows at a rate of 4%. So if we combine these two rates of return, we can reasonably expect Sarah's portfolio to grow at a rate of 6% per year moving forward. So again, so Sarah's money was invested, RSPs, TFSA, and non-registered accounts. So her current portfolio, again, worth $1 million. Half of it was in RSPs, which is taxable. So as we know, whenever you take money out of an RSP, it's 100% taxable. And this can create a huge tax issue down the road, which I like to call the RSP tax bomb. You can check out more information on that on the video up ahead. And the other $500,000 was, again, $100,000 in her tax-free savings account and $400,000 in her non-registered account, which added up to $500,000. So the reason that this portion of her portfolio is tax efficient is because anything that she makes in her TFSA is all tax-free. So that's pretty straightforward. And any growth that she sees in her non-registered account will be tax favorable. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that she has $1,000 in a non-registered account. If it grows to $2,000, she's made $1,000. She won't have to pay tax on that entire amount. She'll only have to pay tax on half of it. So her account or her $1,000 grew to $2,000. That's a $1,000 gain. She's only going to have to pay tax on $500. Now, if the same thing happens in her RSP, again, she has $1,000, it grows to $2,000, she's going to have to pay tax on that entire gain that she has there. So that's why a non-registered account is more tax efficient than an RSP. So as it currently stands, again, her approach was moderate to balanced. So half of her RSP was in stocks and the other half was in fixed income investments. And same thing with her TFSA and non-registered account. So like we just looked at, we expected the stock portion to continue growing at a rate of 8% and conservative fixed income portion to grow at a rate of 4% for an average of 6% on the entire portfolio. So if we were to do this for 10 years, and we're not looking at any withdrawals here, let's just say that this keeps growing for 10 years at 6%, her RSP would grow to $895,000, which again would be taxable. And her TFSA and non-registered account would also grow to $895,000 for a total portfolio of just under $1.8 million. So that's the number we're going to want to remember here, $1.8 million, and each of her accounts worth just under $900,000. So how can we invest this portfolio more tax efficiently? So here's another way of doing it. Again, her portfolio is worth $1 million. She currently has half in RSPs, half in a tax-free savings account / non-registered. So what we do in this situation is rather than having each account be moderate, which means having half in stock or half in fixed income, we would put all of Sarah's conservative fixed income investments in her RSP. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, the idea is we still want her RRSP to grow, but not as much as her other accounts because, again, it's not tax efficient when she starts drawing on it. So in this case, we'd have all of her stocks in her TFSA and non-registered account. So overall, her TFSA and non-registered are more aggressive and her RSP is more conservative. But when you combine the whole portfolio, she's still a balanced, moderate investor. So how can this create tax efficiencies? Again, we expect the stock portion to grow at a rate of 8% and the fixed income portion to grow at a rate of 4%. So again, same average of 6%. Over 10 years, her RSP now is only growing at 4% because it's 100% invested in fixed income. And that's going to grow to 710,000. So in the previous example, it was growing to 895,000. And the TFSA non-registered portion is going to grow at 8% because it's 100% invested in stocks. And in this case, it's going to grow to just under $1.1 million. So after 10 years, her portfolio is actually worth the same amount. So just under 1.8 million. But in this scenario, there's a lot more money that's grown on the TFSA / non-registered side of things that her portfolio is a lot more tax efficient. So let's just say that something happens to Sarah after 10 years. What's the tax difference that this is going to create? She would save just about $56,000 in taxes after 10 years by implementing this strategy. So this is extra money that could go to her kids or grandkids rather than going towards paying a tax bill. So a simple idea for Sarah, again, her portfolio would stay the same as far as her overall risk tolerance. It's just being a bit smarter about where her investments are held. And so a quick little change to her portfolio that could potentially save her over 50 grand in 10 years. So that was an idea for Sarah. And then again, the second question that she had or concern that she had was how to reduce portfolio fluctuations. So like I was mentioning, now that she's retired, she's concerned. She's seeing her statements every month. Money's going up, it's going down. She's no longer putting money into it, so it's a lot bigger concern of hers in retirement. So what can we do to reduce fluctuations? Now, when it comes to retirement, your first years are key. Very important that you don't lose money. So again, in this scenario, Sarah had $1 million portfolio, and the plan was to withdraw $75,000 per year from that account, from those accounts, I should say. So she needed the 75K to fund her lifestyle. So I showed Sarah two hypothetical portfolios. So portfolio one, here were the rate of returns over the first 10 years of her retirement. And the average ended up being 5.5%. Now portfolio two, the rates of return are slightly different. And the average was 6.5%. So I asked Sarah, which portfolio would you rather have over the next 10 years? And the answer seems kind of obvious. Portfolio two, the rate of return is higher, but when you actually dive into the numbers, it's actually quite interesting. So after 10 years, portfolio one has just over $694,000 remaining. Again, we started at $1 million. We're taking out $75,000 every year. And portfolio three has less money in it, $643,000. So how is this possible if the rate of return on the second portfolio has been better than the first one? So let's dig into it a little bit more. And let's just say that you have $100,000. In your first year investing, you lose 10%. So your $100,000 is now worth $90,000. Now your second year, you make 10%. But the difference is you only made 10% on the 90K that you had left. So now your account's worth $99,000. So over the 2 years that you were investing in this scenario, your average was 0%, but you've actually lost $1,000. So it's super important that when you're investing, you want to avoid losses as much as possible because you need that much more return to get yourself back to even. So if you lose 10%, you need to make 11 to break even. If you lose 20%, you need to make 25, so on and so forth. And again, makes a lot of sense. If you lose 50%, so let's say you have $100,000, you lose 50%, now you're at 50,000. For you to get back to 100,000, if you only make 50%, you're going to be at 75K. you need to make 100% on your 50 grand to get you back to even. So it's very important that you don't lose money, especially once you're starting to withdraw in retirement. So if we go back to that previous scenario, we see in portfolio one, her first few years of retirement, 6%, 3%, 14% in portfolio one. Portfolio two, it didn't do that bad. -4% the first year, second year, 8%, third year, -6%. But again, as we just saw, when you lose money, it's that much harder for you to come back to break even. So again, in this scenario, rate of return is lower on portfolio one than it is in portfolio two, but your actual rate of return ends up being higher. So yes, rate of return is important, but it can't be your only factor in assessing how your portfolio is doing in retirement. So how do you get around this? How do you not take out money in a loss position? So one strategy that Sarah can implement is using the bucketing strategy. So again, she has $1 million portfolio. And in this case, we'll use 3 buckets. The first bucket is the money that she's going to use over the first year of her retirement. So again, we need $75,000 a year. This is money that's short-term that she's going to need a year from now. $75,000 will go into bucket one, into something super safe and liquid because we don't want it fluctuating in value. Now, bucket two is the money that she's going to need over the midterm. So years 2 to 7 of her retirement. So that's 6 years at $75,000 a year. She would need to put $450,000 into this second bucket. And again, this would be invested in something that's conservative. And the idea is after 1 year, Sarah has drained the $75,000 out of her first bucket. So we need to replenish that from the second bucket. So it's flowing downwards. So there's always money available in the first bucket that's super safe and liquid and not fluctuating negatively in value. Now, the third bucket is for the money that she's not going to touch for at least 10 plus years. So in this case, it would be $475,000. And this is the piece of Sarah's portfolio that's going to fluctuate in value. So what ends up happening is that that third bucket has a good year. So the market has a good rate of return. We can keep flowing that money downhill. If that bucket has a bad year, we would just leave it as is and let it recover. So in this, by building out your portfolio in this manner, you're giving yourself a 10-year buffer before you even need to touch the portion of your portfolio that's fluctuating in value. So if we go back to the 2008 financial crisis, it took markets, depending on where you're investing around the world, between 3 to 5 years to recover. By using this approach, you've built in a 10-year buffer before you're even at risk of taking out any of your funds in a loss position. So this is a great strategy to use, especially these days when markets are not always cooperating. We're seeing statements down in value. This can reduce your stress level because you know at the end of the day that that portion of your portfolio that's fluctuating in value, you don't need to touch it for 10 years. So it just gives you that peace of mind. Do the things that you want to be doing in retirement rather than focusing on your statement. So 2 strategies that Sarah could implement. Again, the first one, just investing more tax efficiently. By doing that, she can save over $50,000 in taxes. And the second one is just restructuring her portfolio in a different, using different buckets. And again, like I said, by using this approach, a lot more stress off her shoulders in retirement. So thanks a lot for watching this video. Again, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. It helps us out tremendously. Until next time, take care.